belonging to GS paper 3, which was asked in 2022 mains exam. Okay. So again, my request would be that we are discussing here the questions. You please try to write down the answers on your own on the basis of the framework we are discussing. Okay. So let us begin with the first question here. Discuss the types of organized crimes. Okay. Describe the linkage between terrorism or terrorists and organized criminals or organized crime that exists at the national and the international levels. So we had to discuss about the organized crimes, okay, and we have also had to discuss the linkage. So first of all, we have to describe what is an organized crime, and then discuss about the types, that such and such are the types of organized crime. And in the body, again, we will have to also develop a linkage between terrorism and organized crimes, okay, that exists at the national as well as international level. So what is the linkage at the regional level, at the national level, at the international level, that organized crime and terrorism can go hand in hand, okay. So let us begin with the first part. This is in introduction, we had to describe about we had to describe about organized crime. So what do we mean by organized crime? Organized crime is an entrepreneurial structure. Entrepreneurial structure of illegal activities. Okay, they will usually undertake, they will only undertake illegal activities. Okay, it can be anything related to smuggling, related to hawala operations, smuggling of drugs, of gold, of wildlife trafficking or human trafficking, anything. But of all the illegal activities, it's an entrepreneurial structure, it's an organized structure wherein there will be a head of that organization, there will be people, laborers working under that organization. So it's an organization, that's why we are calling it as an organized crime. Okay, now because it is an organized crime and working as an entrepreneurial structure, it will also ask for training of the people, training of the labor force, of the force. So how is the training done? This can be done by brainwashing, this can be done by selecting those people who are under extreme poverty region, or those who are facing persecution in a particular country, those who are socially or politically or economically backward section of society. So such people are often brainwashed, and by brainwashing we are actually training this labor force. Okay, so in introduction of the question, we just had to explain what do we mean by an organized crime. An organized crime is a criminal activity undertaken by an organization. It's an organizational structure which will undertake all illegal activities. Okay, so that was our introduction part. Coming to the body part. In body, we had to explain some of the examples, because that was the question. We had to explain the examples of organized crime in India or across the world. So examples can be hawala operations. In hawala operations, what happens is money is illegally transferred from one country to the other. Okay, so there will be hawala operators sitting in two different countries. Without getting into the exchange rate, without undertaking informing the legal authorities about it, the money gets transferred from one country to the other country. Okay, this is known as a hawala operation. Okay, so because this kind of money transfer occurs, we are signaling it as black money. We are calling this money as black money because it has not come into the legal limelight. Okay, other forms of organized crime can also be cyber crime, which can be international, can be national, can be regional also. Okay, cyber crime or crimes related to asking the OTPs and extracting, taking out money from the account, all that can be considered under cyber crime itself. Okay, within apart from cyber crime, the other types of organized crime can be human trafficking, wherein people are bought and sold. Okay, it can be women in prostitution market, men in prostitution market, or men in labor force, children in labor force. So human beings can be bought or sold for either labor force or for prostitution or any other activities. Okay, if they are bought and sold, we are calling this as human trafficking. Okay, or organized crime can also be money laundering. Money laundering is also illegal shifting of money. Okay, for example, if we have to put up this money in somewhere, for example, a investor has promised that I will be investing such and such amount of money in an NGO. Okay, because the investor gets some benefit, tax related benefit, because he was investing in an NGO. Now what he will do, he will not put up in an NGO and just put it under the black money, that on paper he will say that I have given money to this NGO and this money goes off the legal angles, okay, off the legal sheet, of the legal document. So such kind of money we are calling it as a black money, and this black money, if it is moving from one account to the other, this is known as money laundering. Okay, plus it can also be drug trafficking. So drug trafficking is also smuggling, buying and selling of drugs in those countries, in those regions where it is not allowed. Okay, so these can be examples of organized crime. Organized crime ke liye we have one more very prime example, that is terrorism. Terrorism can also be itself an organized crime. Okay, now depends upon the terrorist organization how big it is or how small it is, what kind of activities they are undertaking, but terrorism itself can be an example to organized crime. Okay, so what is the linkage, what is the linkage between terrorism and organized crime? So all these things, hawala operations, cyber crime, human trafficking, money laundering, drug trafficking, they are actually supplying money. Terrorism also involves too much amount of money. All this money laundering, the black money, hawala transactions, all this, when it gets accumulated, it gets misdirected to a terrorist organization. So that develops the linkage between terrorism and organized crime, because all these organized crimes are providing as an input to terrorism. It can be in terms of money, it can be in terms of brainwashed human force, okay, or it can be in terms of loopholes in security. So what terrorism makes use of? Terrorism makes use of loopholes which are present in security. There can be certain security related issues in a particular region. So these loopholes in security are used by terrorists to organize their, or to carry out terrorist activity, which can again be called as an organized crime. Okay, or their intention is also to internationalize the grouping. They feel that it is rebirth, rejuvenation of the terrorist organization if it expands to international aura. Okay, if it expands to, let's say, ISIS as a terrorist organization enters into Indian Ocean also, or African region also. So this is considered as ISIS is growing. Okay, although it's a terrorist organization, their intent is to internationalize the grouping. Okay, so that is how there develops a linkage between organized crime and terrorism, because organized crime is providing as an input to terrorism. Such inputs can be in terms of need for money. So organized crime is providing money to terrorists. They are also providing brainwashed human force to terrorists, or they are also making use of loopholes in security. Both organized crime is also making use of loopholes in security. Okay, or they are also trying to internationalize the grouping. So this linkage we had to establish between organized crime and terrorism. Okay, now coming to the conclusion part. In conclusion, we had to write about the collaboration in the regional, national and international level. So there will be certain problems at the regional level, at the national level and at the international level. So for example, at regional level, dense forest can be a problem. For example, in northeast, dense forest is, or the topography is a problem, why we are not able to tackle the security challenges, security loopholes there. We are not able to block the security loopholes in northeast because of the topography of the region. Okay, same problem is related to northeast. It is also related to Kashmir, the international boundary at Kashmir. We are not able to block the terrorists coming into Kashmir region because of the topography region. Or we are not, we are facing security challenges in the Ladakh region also. That is also the problem of topography. So these are some of the regional problems. Okay, regional problems in handling organized crime can also be failed measures of failed political or not successful political ideologies or social schemes, social sector schemes which did not perform well. So the people were not coming out of the poverty. Now because they are not coming out of poverty, they are looking for other alternatives to earn money, that can be organized crime. Okay, so the issues, the collaboration, the problems can be regional, can be national, or can be international, which is developing this linkage between organized crime as well as terrorism. Okay, so with that we will conclude this question. Now coming to the second question. The second question for today says, what are the maritime security challenges in India? Okay, so we had to discuss about the maritime security challenges in India. Discuss the organizational, so 3 pointers. First one, we have to discuss the organizational. Second is the technical part, and third is the procedural initiatives. So three initiatives that government is undertaking. The first one is organizational, second is technical, and third is the procedural initiatives taken to improve the maritime security challenge. Okay. So evidently it is clear that in the introduction part should be discussing about maritime security, maritime what do we mean by maritime security issues. Okay, so all the security issues which are present in the maritime domain, it can be brackish water or it can also be fresh water. If we are facing any problem in fresh water also, that will also be considered under maritime. But because the fresh water is very much intrinsic to, very much restricted within the state boundaries, or visible in the eyes of the national domain, we have less amount of security issues in fresh water. More issues are present in the brackish water or the saline water or the sea. Okay. Plus, because our coastline is almost 7,000 kilometers long, which makes it imperative. Imperative matlab, it is mandatory that India must have a maritime organizational to block the maritime security issues. Okay, so this can be our introduction. After that, we can move to the body part. So in body, the questions were the crux of the question was, what are the challenges? So we had to discuss about the challenges of maritime security plus 3 pointers. So the 3 pointers can be in terms of organizational, technical, or procedural. Okay. So the challenges to maritime security is piracy. So pirates will loot the ships, will loot the docks. Okay, so not docks as in they do not come to the beaches, but they will loot ships in the mid sea. So piracy is a problem. Okay, especially because India is closely located to Somalia region. Now this region is very infamous for piracy. So India also needs to undertake this as a major maritime security challenge. Okay. Plus, challenges to maritime security can also be terrorism or even shipment of arms. Okay, shipment of arms or shipment of human trafficked, or human beings which are trafficked, or wildlife which are trafficked. So drugs, gold, wildlife species smuggling in Indian water is also a maritime security challenge. Okay, maritime security challenge can also be maritime border disputes. For example, Sir Creek dispute of Gujarat region. This is also a problem, maritime security challenge. We do not have a clarity on which part we belongs. We do not have a proper clarity on what part belongs to India and what part belongs to Pakistan. Or we have the same problem in India-Sri Lanka issue also. The problem here is we do not have clarity over till this line Indian fishermen should go to, after this line only Sri Lankan fishermen can come. So this maritime border dispute is another big problem. Plus environmental degradation. Environmental degradation is another major maritime security challenge. Okay. So presently, how are we handling this? We have at state level, we have the state coastal authority. Okay, the state coastal authority is responsible for security only up to 12 nautical miles inside water, And then we have the Coast Guard. Coast Guard is responsible for security along 200 nautical miles. So up to the EEZ, exclusive economic zones, we have the coast guards which are sitting. Okay, and lastly is the Indian Navy, which is responsible for international maritime boundary line, which is responsible for protecting that 7,000-kilometer coastline. Okay, so this is the three-tier security structure in India. Plus the initiatives can be in terms of organizational. So in terms of organization, we have formed many organizations, or India is a party to many organizations such as UNCLOS or IORA or Sagar Initiative. Okay, so under these initiatives, India is trying to collaborate with all the regions of Indian Ocean. Okay, plus the initiatives are also technical. For example, data sharing amongst all the countries of Indian Ocean region. So if we have the data sharing, we can tackle the problem of either piracy or terrorism. Okay, plus procedural initiatives include some maritime exercises that India is undertaking with any other country. Okay, so these are the initiatives that the government is undertaking to tackle the maritime security challenges. Now coming to the last part, that is the body part. In body, we had to basically discuss the way forward. So what more can be done? Okay, so what more can be done? We need to step up international, cultural, regional efforts. So we need to collaborate in terms of culture, in terms of international relations, or in terms of regional efforts. So in a particular region, we need to look up, this region has this problem, so we need to solve this problem. So basically this needs to go in a bottom up approach. Because this is international effort, it will automatically be top down approach. And this can be mixed. For example, we need to look, for example, for certain region, we need to focus on the culture. For certain reasons, we can take up the international efforts. Okay, so we need to basically step up the security efforts and block the loopholes. We need to block the loopholes related to security in these regions. Okay, so that is how we can conclude this answer. Now coming to the third and the final question for today, that is, what is the basic principle behind vaccine development? So we had to discuss about on what guidance, on what lines are we developing a vaccine. Okay, and how do vaccines work? So what is the mechanism of functioning of vaccine, plus what approach has been adopted by the Indian vaccine manufacturers? So we know that Serum Institute of India or Bharat Biotech have developed India's two major vaccines. So it is talking about what approach was adopted by these vaccine manufacturers. Okay, this question was of all 15 marker, 250 words was the desired word limit. So here we need to discuss about vaccine. So we have to discuss about what do we mean by a vaccine. So vaccine is a biological product. It's a biological product which is responsible for initiating the immune response of our body. Okay, so how the rest we will see, how does the vaccine work, that we will see in the body part of our answer. So the body part may we had to discuss about the principle of vaccine development. So in body part, we had to discuss about the principle of vaccine development. So how does a vaccine, how do we determine whether this vaccine is suitable for this pathogen or not? So firstly, we will, how does a vaccine is developed is protection by attacking human immune system. So vaccine gives protection by attacking the human immune system. Okay, it will behave like a pathogen, which once it enters into the body, there will be an immune response. Okay, now the immune response comes from this T and B lymphocytes. So basically lymphocytes is something which will eat up the foreign body. Okay, now because it is a pathogen is a foreign body, right? So this pathogen must be consumed by these lymphocytes. So T and B lymphocytes will become active and they will fight with this pathogen and kill the pathogen. Okay, Plus, these two lymphocytes will always remember how to fight with this pathogen. Okay. Now, it depends upon the vaccine's capability. Let's say for vaccines such as tetanus, okay, we need to take it every 6 months. So let's say within a period of this T and B lymphocytes will remember only for 6 months how to fight with this pathogen. Okay, so they will remember how to fight against that pathogen. Or for vaccines such as polio, it will remember forever in your life. If you get the proper dosage of polio, these T and B lymphocytes will remember forever how to fight against this pathogen. Okay. Plus, it is triggered when the pathogen actually attacks. So this was a created pathogen, right? This was deliberately injected in your body. Now because your T and B lymphocytes now remember or understand how to fight against this pathogen, now they will remember. And once the pathogen actually attacks, they will be ready for war, or they will be ready to kill that pathogen. So this is the principle of vaccine development. Now, working of vaccine is undertaken by two types of vaccine. It can be live attenuated, or it can be a dead antigen. So basically what happens is an antigen is introduced into your body. Okay, this antigen is responsible for triggering an immune system. So once this antigen enters into your body, the T and B lymphocytes will trigger the immune system and they will kill the pathogen. Okay. So such kind of basically vaccines can be of two types. One is live attenuated, or the other can be dead antigen. If the pathogen is very strong, we will usually give it as in the form of a dead antigen. If it is relatively weak, we will give it as a live attenuated, but it is weakened. Okay. So once it enters into your body, the response, the now T and B lymphocytes knows how to fight against this pathogen. So once it is actually entering into your body, these T and B lymphocytes will be able to kill it. Okay. Now, what approach has the Indian manufacturers? For example, we have COVID vaccine and COVID shield, right? So, what approach was adopted, that we will see here. In first step, clinical trials are governed by. So, in first step, there are three phases: phase 1, 2, 3 of clinical trials. So clinical trials mein what happens is a particular drug will be injected into a huge number of people. Okay, all these people will be injected with drugs in phase 1, in phase 2, in phase 3, and the development over that over a period of time will be noted, whether they were able to kill the pathogen, did they have any side effects. So if the side effects are too much, we will not be continuing with this vaccine. Okay, so clinical trials for phase 1, 2, 3 is to be approved. Okay, so for development of Indian vaccines also, this clinical trials were approved, and this approval is done by, or rather governed by, New Drugs and Clinical Trials Rules 2019. Okay, so these rules were developed, and which was governing the clinical trials rules. Okay, now then the Drug Controller General of India, they lay down this body, Drug Controller General of India, it lays down the standards and quality of manufacturing. So if you have to manufacture, if you have to sell, if you need to import or distribute drugs, you will have to get approval from DGCI. Okay, so the same thing was the stage 2, and then finally the vaccine is approved by CDSCO. Okay, so this is Central Drugs and Standards Control Order. They will approve whether the vaccine is working fine or not on the basis of clinical trials, and then DGCI will allow the manufacturing, selling and distribution of the vaccine. So the same approach was also followed by Indian manufacturers. So Indian manufacturers may we have two vaccines. One was Covaxin, developed by Bharat Biotech, and the other one was COVID Shield, developed by Serum Institute of India. Okay, Covaxin was an inactivated vaccine. We discussed, you remember, live attenuated and dead vaccine. So this was a dead vaccine, inactivated vaccine. But COVID Shield was a live attenuated but weakened one. Okay, so these were the COVID vaccines which were developed in India. So this is how we can write these three answers. Now again, please try to write these answers. Excuse me. Please try to write these answers, and you can submit it for correction, or you can also ask for a model answer. Okay, with that we come to the end of this discussion. Thank you so much and all the very best.